Good day, folks. This is video number 29 in the 3D Experience CATIA's Generative Shape Design Application playlist. It belongs to the playlist that deals with surfaces because there's two such playlists. One of them is for wireframe. This one is for surface tab. The particular icon that we're looking at is still sweep icon, one of the advanced icons in GSD. However, this profile type is not explicit as I did in the previous three videos, but it's called line. Now, under the subtype, there's actually 7 of them, but in this video, we will look at 3 of them. And those 3 are 2 limits, limit and a middle with reference surface, okay? And here is the sweep icon, and these are the three subtypes that we're going to look at in this video, and the rest of them are going to be in the next videos. So when you are in generative shape design and you are in the surface tab, you can access sweep, and when you access sweep, this dialog box opens up, and notice that in the previous 3 videos we did this first one, which is called explicit, and basically you draw a sketch and then you sweep that. Okay, here that profile or that sketch is actually a line. So there are different ways of fooling around with the line. You don't have to draw a line anymore, it'll do it automatically for you. Now there is a help here, and you can see that there are several seven cases, actually, yeah, 7 cases, and we, if you look at the pull-down menu, you see 7 cases here, but in this video, we will do only these 3, okay? These are going to be appearing in the next videos. Altogether, there's 21 different ways of doing the whole thing. There is 4 options here, and each one of them will have several sub-options, subtypes, and altogether there's 21 of them, okay? Now, the CATIA v5 version of this tutorial, which I'm following very closely, is here, and if you're interested, you can look at it. So let's go ahead and start with the 3D experience. And first thing I'm going to do, I will look at a trivial situation. In other words, on this plane, horizontal plane, this is a trivial situation. I'm going to draw a sketch, a line. And when I say trivial, you can see why I say it is a trivial sweep situation. Exit. So we have a line there. Now, in the same plane, but not the same sketch though, I'll draw another line. Oh, something like this. Exit. So notice that what we have here is 2 sketches, both of them in the same XY plane for simplicity right now. And that's pretty much it. So we select the surface tab, and there is your sweep. You click on it. Now I want not the explicit one, but I want the line. And when you do that, there's a pull-down menu, and these are the 7 cases that you can look at. We're just looking at the 2 limit situation. First one, click. And notice that when you do that, there is 2 curves, 2 guide curves that you have to select. In this case, they just have to be very simple. The line doesn't matter. I select this first one and select that. And notice that the first guide curve is always selected as spine, unless you go and change that, of course, okay? But that's okay, it's no problem. If I say preview here, I'll get something that's trivial. Look, basically I get a flat plate. So what it did, close this. What it did, it took these 2 lines. Here's one of them. Here's the other one. And treated the first sketch, which was I believe this one, this one, as the spine. So when you have a spine, it draws infinite number of planes, a lot of planes perpendicular to that line, and find the intersection of that plane with the other line. So it connects. We basically find this intersection of those planes with both lines, and then connect them together, connect those two intersection points together, and creates a surface. You don't have the genius to see that when these two lines are in the same plane, then what you get is actually the plane between these two lines. Trivial. Now you might say, what is this? If I double click on this, notice that there are these options here. Length 1, let me make this thing 0 and show you what happens. 0 preview. Notice that when you use 0, 0, basically it goes exactly between these two lines. But if you can increase that, for example, you can say, okay, I want an add-on, let's say of 35 millimeter to sketch 1, and let me see preview. See, it goes by 36 millimeter this way, and I want an add-on of say 30 millimeter. It goes in the other way. So that's what this is. It basically extrapolates that surface. Now, if you put a minus, it'll probably bring it in. Now, let me put a minus here. Preview. Yeah, you can see it brings it in. Now, I want to make this thing a little bit harder. So cancel that. I don't need this sweep. I can either hide it or just delete it. Okay. Let me delete it. Let me delete it. Okay. Now, instead of this being in this XY plane, instead of this sketch 2 being in the XY plane, I want to draw it so that it is in this vertical plane, in this vertical plane, which is, let's see now, XZ. Uh, not X, YZ. Yeah. So I have two choices. What I can do is I can go ahead and create a line, another line in this plane, which I can do, or I can change the uh, uh, support of this sketch. Well, I'll do another one. Let me hide this so that I don't see it. So on that vertical plane, I will go and sketch a line. Again, another line. Exit. So basically, I have two lines here. They're not in the same plane. In fact, you can see that they never intersect. So I go to sweep for the, again, two limit case. For the guide curve 1, I use this. For guide curve 2, I use this. If I say preview, exactly it does the same thing as before. Let me also make this thing 0. I don't know why it defaults to 20. Okay. So what happens is that it goes between these two lines based on the procedure that I excuse me, explained to you, taking the spine, which is line sketch 1, a lot of planes perpendicular to it, find the intersection between sketch 2 and sketch 1, obviously, and connect them and attach those lines together, you get a surface. So you can see that in the previous case, we got a flat face, flat surface. This is not flat anymore. It's actually a surface. You can see that. Now, these are exactly the same thing. For example, you can go ahead and let's say add length on the other side so that it extends this surface outside. And if you want, you can go and extend the other guy. Preview. Exactly the same thing. Now, you can also use these relimiters. What does that mean? For example, you put the cursor, you say, I don't want everything to be shown. I don't want everything to be shown. I can only only a portion of it. So you can say right click, insert wireframe, insert a point on a curve. For example, at this point, this is 1 point, and I'll do another one for the other relimiter number 2. Insert a wireframe, create a point, norm on a curve right there, here, and then say OK. All right, notice that what it did, it actually gave me the portion preview. It actually, when you say preview, it gives you the portion of that surface that's created between these two limiting points. You could have done planes, by the way. Okay, so let me clear this, clear that. Okay, preview. Get back to the original one. Now, there's something else I want to show you. I'm going to make this thing back to 0 so that the surface is not extended. Preview. There we are. Now, there's something here. There's something here which says second curve as the middle curve. See, there's a checkbox there, which is not selected. When I select this, first of all, some of the options that I had before are going to disappear. Notice that, remember, I had here limit 1, limit 2, etc. I don't have that anymore. But what this thing does, it says it takes the sketch 2 and makes it the middle, essentially, line, middle curve of the surface. If I say preview, look, remember, this was sketch 1, this is sketch 2, okay? Now it's going to use this as the middle curve, so pretend that the other side, this is extended equally on the other side. So you say preview, you see that? So this middle 2, limit and middle, is if you check this within 2 limit, if you check that, but it treats this sketch 2 as your or guide curve 2 as the middle curve. So say okay. All right, and let me undo this. Let me delete this. I want to do something else. What if these are not line? So for example, I go here, I go to that sketch. Instead of this being a line, I'll make it a spline. Let me turn this thing to construction or delete it completely. That's up to you. I'll delete it. Okay, I'll delete it. Okay. Now I do a spline. So maybe something like that. Exit. Okay, notice that these are two curves in space. They don't intersect. There are not lines anymore. One of them is a line, the other one is not. I go to sweep and use for example, the first one, 2 limits. Let's see what happens here. And this and that. Preview. Yeah, gives you a sophisticated surface. Okay. Now, keep in mind that if you check this, it treats sketch 2 as this middle curve, and those limits will disappear, and you get something like that. Okay, cancel that. Now, when you go to sweep, you have taken care of the first curve, 2 limits. But if you go to limit and middle, we have already discussed this. It's exactly the same story. It says, okay, limit and middle. Curve 1 is this. Curve 2, guide curve 2 is this. It's going to treat that as the middle curve. And then say preview, and you get back what you have. Right. And remember, when you use this, you don't have that extension thingy. You cannot extend these surfaces anymore. You see that. All right. So we have done 2 cases. We have done 2 limits, limit and a middle. And then we say, okay, and we're done with this. The third one, let me delete this. The third one was with reference surface. To do that, I illustrated like this. First of all, let me let me let me get rid of all of these things. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to create a surface. So, for example, on that vertical plane, I will sketch. Down here, I'll draw a spline, exit, and then I'm going to extrude it. And let me do that longer, for example, maybe 200. There we are. So we have a surface like that. Okay. Now, what I would like to do is to draw a guide curve. However, the guide curve, one of the requirements is that to be on the surface that you want to select, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a spline up here and then project it on that. So on that plane, I will sketch something that looks like a spline. Is a spline, something like this, and exit. Notice that if I want to use this feature with reference surface, the guide curve must be on that surface. So what that curve is not on that surface, so I'm going to project it so that it has an effect on that surface. So let's go to a wireframe, project that curve on that surface. It doesn't matter whether you want it normal or along a certain direction. I did along a certain direction, so let's do it Z, and then we say okay. So what I can do, I can use this as the guide curve, not the guide up there, because that is not on that plane. Okay. So to make our life easier, I'm going to hide this, and its sole purpose was to be able to get something showing up on this surface. So let me hide these planes also. Hide these planes. Okay, now we go to surface, sweep. So I'm going to go to sweep. Let me initialize everything to be 0, 0, 0. Okay, so now what is the guide curve? The guide curve is this, that's projected. The surface is that, okay. Now notice that what happens is that when these are 0, 0, 0, 0, I can't even access that. So let me change these things to something else. So maybe 10. Now I can preview. Now I'll tell you what we're going to see. When I say preview, you're going to see a surface, but look, because it's the angle 0, it's kind of useless. It's not the kind of thing that we want. Or maybe it is what you want, I don't know. But let's change this angle to maybe 15 degrees, preview. You see now, it created a surface here, but with 15 degrees you can't see it. So let me make it 45 degrees. You see? Now you can see at 45 degree, and then if you change this thing to, for example, 10, it also goes in the other direction. So it goes in both directions. You see, when this is 0, you're going to get a surface, but it's kind of useless. It's going to be on that other surface. So if I change this thing to, for example, 90, this is what we get. Yeah? And of course, these control how far it's going to go in each direction. This one is going to go up, preview. Okay. Let me say okay. There we are. Now, if you go back here, you change the angle to something else, maybe 30 degrees, preview. Notice that it is at an angle 30 degrees. Now, also, there is different solutions here, just so that we can see it better. So, yeah, the different solutions. So, we go to the next one, preview. Next one, preview. Next one, preview. It could be that two of them are identical to the other two. Yeah, so, and the same thing that we did with relimiters, in other words, we can restrict what portion of this you what portion of this you want to see, and yeah, everything else is the same. So we have covered two limits, limit and a middle, and with reference surface. In future videos, we're going to do these other cases. Okay, very good. Let me change this thing to 70 so you can see it better. There you are. All right, folks.